Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about math. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, can you give your opinion on the importance of math for being a good programmer? Well, I would say that for most intents and purposes, math, like a higher level of math, everything, like anything above, like we're talking, I don't know when you learn all these things. Well, say high school algebra and things like that. Anything above that is usually not that useful. It's not that important to a software developer, but it very much depends on the nature of the work that you do. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So if you are a boilerplate, boring, standard old web developer who sits in a bathtub and talks about it, most of the time you don't really care so much about higher levels of math, because most of what you do is either to make a UI look a certain way, or persist something to a database, or write a cron job or something that performs an operation. Like most of the stuff is the standard. I have some business requirement, convert that into some usually fairly basic logic, and save the results to a database. That's usually what you do. And so, like, more advanced mathematics isn't really all that necessary, but that is under, as I said, it's under the assumption that that is the sort of work that you do, and this is what most of the industry is doing. However, let's say that you work on an application that works with much more advanced calculations. I used to have a job where I worked for a company that created a product that needed to integrate into the tax system. And now all of a sudden, the mathematics that we need to do is much more in the center. Like it's much more there's much more focus on math because we need to do tax calculations. And so, of course, all of our functions that do these calculations needs to be correct. And now the requirements on your math skills goes up. The same thing can be true if you're a games developer, where you might need a more in-depth of certain like linear algebra and things like that, in order to be able to perform. Like, I mean, it depends. If you can buy, of course, just use from pre-made tool for certain stuff, but if you're going to make a simple small game and you need to design physics and stuff like that, you're not going to have to know about it in order to make to create the correct logic. So that's at least my viewpoint on this. I used to believe when I was younger that math was like the most important thing, and only all good programmers need to be really good at mathematics to be good programmers. And I can tell you that it's not true. Like, you do of course need to have some ability. I mean, if you can get through high school math, then you're usually fine. Uh, it's because most of the stuff that you're going to do isn't more advanced than that, assuming of course that you're not dealing with, as I said, a domain that is that complicated. So what I want you to take away from this is basically that your math skills, if you can make it through high school, mathematics is usually going to be fine. You don't need to have a higher level education of mathematics in order to be a good programmer, because most of, at least in web, what you do isn't really related to hardcore math. There are absolutely times when you might work on a project where you need to have a more in-depth understanding of mathematics. If you're doing like geospatial equations, or if, let's say, that you're doing games development, you need to calculate physics or things like that. These are times when you might need a higher level of skill in mathematics. But as I said, it's usually down to the project that you're dealing with rather than some inherent minimum level. So you can work for most of your career without having to be all that good in math, or you can pick a project where you have to be really, really good at math on day one. It all depends on the role that you're going to work within. Have a great day.